Welcome back to Last But Not Least. I'm your host, Chris Burnette, and on this podcast and YouTube channel, we help people find the best ways to become the most excellent versions of themselves. In this episode, I'll actually be talking about 5 leadership lessons that I learned as my first year as a manager for one of the fastest growing companies in America. We'll dive in. The first lesson that I learned in my first full year as a manager for a corporate entity is to say no to good things so that you can say yes to the best thing. That's easier said than done because myself personally, I'm a little bit of a people pleaser. So when people ask me to do something, I pretty much automatically want to say yes. But I've realized that as I've become a people leader in the role and in the work that I do currently, I just have a limited amount of resources. And the most important and valuable resource that I own is my time. So with that in mind, as I've continued to elevate within the company, I've had more and more people ask me to do really, really cool things. But the thing I've had to recognize and actually be a little bit more thoughtful about is I can't say yes to everything. And the best method for me is to be thoughtful about everything that comes my way and say, is this going to be beneficial to me just today, or would it be beneficial to me and the company for the future? So again, prime example, I was asked early in 2022 to be a part of a culture committee, something that was really cool and I think would be a great way for me to influence the business. And I was honored to be asked to do that. But at that time, I just felt like I was overwhelmed. I just had just enough things on my plate and I didn't want to make anything more difficult for myself. So thankfully, in that moment, I said no. And I was grateful that I trusted the leadership and that they trusted me enough for us to be honest and for me to share that I didn't think it was the best timing for me to do that. Fast forward a few months later, I got asked to do something else that was really cool, but had a lot larger visibility and impact and influence. And if I had said yes to the first thing requested of me, I would not have had the capacity to do the second thing that was asked of me, which wound up being the best thing. So, all that being said, be thoughtful and intentional about the things that people ask you to do. Don't just say yes to everything. Again, say no to good things so that you can say yes to the best things. Lesson number 2 that I learned is to get comfortable saying, I don't know. It's funny that when I got asked to become a manager within the company that I work for, I did not feel like I was qualified or prepared. I had a background of working in athletics and being in financial services, but not much in the work that I'm doing currently, which is more project management and business development. I had people on my team who actually trained me and had way more experience than I had, so I didn't feel comfortable taking on the role. Thankfully, the higher up leadership actually had just belief in me that I didn't necessarily have and trusted me to take on this opportunity. Thankfully, I said yes, and the biggest thing I've recognized is I didn't have to know everything in order to lead well. That's exciting for me because, again, most of the people who report to me know way more about the work and probably are way smarter than I am. But I did have some talents and capabilities that would kind of flesh out what was needed for the team at that time. As I recognized the year go on over and over again, I recognized that I just didn't have all the answers. And I was transparent and authentic about that with my team. And they actually really appreciated that. I think it really made them honestly respect me even more. So I guess the key to this is to lead in authenticity, lead with as much intentionality and honesty as possible, but also lead with humility and understand that I'm never gonna know all the answers, but it's important for me to lean on people who do have expertise and the knowledge and history and background that would be needed for us to continue to push the ball forward. So again, that is, get very comfortable with knowing that you don't know everything. Lesson number 3 that I learned is pretty self-explanatory, and that's to build out every aspect of your calendar as possible. I'm someone who tries to plan well, but I also love to leave room for flexibility. And so I really pushed against this for a while, and it's something I've picked up later in the year to allow me to be better effective with my time. And that's just to calendar and schedule out as many things as possible throughout my day. The best tactic that I've learned actually comes from a book, Deep Work by Cal Newport. And in that book, he recommended by the end of the day, get prepared for the day coming up and basically write out what the ideal schedule for your day would look like. Not only have it blocked off in your calendar, but write it off for yourself, but also understand that there's likely gonna be a lot of detours and roadblocks that show up along the way. The reason why I think this is a valuable tip for myself and for any manager or leader to learn is that it allows us to really take an audit and evaluation of how we're spending our time. Are we spending our time doing things that are shallow and could be done by a robot or someone who freshly graduated from college? Or are we actually doing strategic, creative, thoughtful work that we probably were asked to become a manager for in the first place? So again, point number 3 and lesson that I learned is to schedule as many things out on your calendar as possible. Point number 4 and lesson that I learned throughout 2022 is to just have fun and don't take too many things too seriously, and also be very intentional to celebrate. I think it's too hard to show up to work every single day, be super stuffy, very serious all the time, because you're spending probably more time in your day with the people you work with than you even do your family. And if you're not having fun, what are you doing? You want to make sure that any time that you show up at work, that you create a playful and exciting environment that makes it fun for people who not only report to you or your counterparts to want to be around you and to want to work with you. That's something that I think I naturally try to bring to the table, a little bit of levity, and I don't try to take myself too seriously. But also it just helps to make the days go by faster. They always say that anytime you can bring some humor and humility to the table, it always makes the day better. So that is the 4th lesson that I learned, or probably was reiterated for me, and that is to have fun and celebrate as often as possible. Just a side note to the whole idea of celebration, I actually came up with a unique idea to be a callback to my days as an athlete, and we actually had helmet stickers for whenever a player did something significant on the field in the game from the week prior. In order to acknowledge our team's acts of second mile service that we did on a daily basis, we made sure that we called out one another, and we all had unique, special, and specific helmet stickers that represented each other and represented ourselves. And anytime someone did an act of second mile service, we call it out in a meeting. We take that sticker off, we add it to the helmet that had the branding of our company on it, and we celebrate that together. It was a really silly idea that I had early on in my time becoming a manager and a people leader, and thankfully my team bought in on it, and it's been a really fun and exciting way to just acknowledge the successes and the extra effort that each person on our team brings to the table every day. So again, remember, point number 4, have fun and celebrate. Point number 5 is honestly the most important one in my opinion, and that's a reminder that true leadership looks like service. Servitude is something that many of us probably look down upon in our daily lives. If we're a leader, we think that we're supposed to be out front with our chests puffed up and to be the ones making the decisions and being on the front lines of every decision made. But I've realized that the best ways for me to provide influence and impact, not only for my team, but also the people that I interact with, is by showing up with a heart of service. And that's not something that I, as a genius, came up with, because I'm far from that. The thing that I realized that from is actually from the scriptures and from a man that I follow, Jesus Christ. He showed us that true service looked like showing up in that way and that posture, and that was what made someone a true leader. I don't think there's ever been a greater and more impactful and influential leader than Jesus of Nazareth. And it's amazing that we're able to apply some of the same principles that he showed and lived out in our daily lives as managers within the work setting. So again, that's a reminder to all of you out there who are leaders to show up with a heart of service. That's the best way to be a leader to your team. All right, those are the 5 leadership lessons that I learned throughout 2022. We'll recap them really quickly. First, say no to good things in order to say yes to the best thing. Number 2, get comfortable saying, I don't know. Number 3, build out your entire calendar as much as possible. Number 4, remember to have fun and celebrate often. And number 5, true leadership looks like service. All right, and that's it. Before we wrap up, last but not least, I actually want to highlight a comment from one of the viewers in our latest video around building new habits, specifically the 2-day rule and the 2-minute rule. Here I want to highlight a comment from Clean Boys R 673. Let's read his comment here together. Here in the video around habits, his response was, thanks, bro. I'm from Italy. By the way, I play American football. Pretty cool to see that people in Italy are playing American football. And his comment continued, I'm struggling to keep going with habits. The consistency of discipline in the long term is the most difficult for me. Maybe it's because I don't have a solid base of intrinsic motivation for my objectives. I don't know what to do, man. I need to get past this problem. I was really encouraged by this comment because, to be quite honest, I felt very similarly to him. The thing that I realized is that the key for us to accomplish something significant is actually not motivation, it's movement. So the way that I would love to encourage you, man, if you're watching this or listening to this episode, is to make the commitment to just show up every single day. And whenever you feel the urge or the reminder that, man, I need to continue to move forward, to just do that. You're not always going to be motivated. You got to remember to show up every single day and give yourself the chance to feel that inspiration and motivation. Hopefully, Clean Boys will be able to show up and follow back up with us and take us along on this journey, because he's adding some new habits to the fold, and I'm trying to do the same. So we're in this together. So if you guys see his comment in the previous video, go give him some encouragement. I think it'll be good for him. All right, that's all I have for us today. Thank you for tuning in to this latest episode of Last But Not Least. But again, I want to hear just some of y'all's comments and thoughts. Are there any leadership lessons that y'all have learned over the past year that you think everyone else should know about? Leave them in the comments or hit me up on any of the social media platforms. Love to hear from y'all. All that being said, thank y'all for tuning in. Excited for the upcoming episode where we actually have our very first special guest. And to be quite honest, it might be the most special guest of all. Again, I hope you guys feel encouraged, and I want to give you the reminder that it's often the things that are last that are most important. See y'all in the next one.